Hey everyone, welcome back to my class. In today's class, we are going to deal with other attributes of biodiversity. But before moving ahead, I want to ask you one question. What is endemic species? What do you mean by that? We have studied this in 9th standard. What is it? So endemic species are the species which are going to be found only and only in the particular area. So since you are going to get these species in a particular area, can I say these are unique? Of course, because you are going to find these species only and only in this given particular area. Nowhere else you will be able to find this species, right? So endemic species are a species unique to the given area, right? Now let's jump on the another topic, that is pattern of biodiversity depend on two factors. So what are the two factors? One is latitudinal and another one is species area relationship. In today's class, we are going to deal with the latitudinal factor. Let's begin. Latitudinal gradient in diversity. Before explaining this page, I want to explain some other thing. See here. Here you can see my earth is rotating and this middle line which is passing by, this is called as equator. Above equator we have tropical region and below equator we have tropical region. This is your north and this is your south. Top to tropical region you have temperate region, and then down to tropical region again here in south direction you have temperate region. This region we call it as polar region. This region we call it as polar region. Here also you have polar region, right? So this is going to be high altitude and this is going to be at the equator, means low. That means if I'm passing from equator to pole, my diversity increases or decreases? Let me put question mark over here. Okay, I will be showing this in the another picture. Now class, in second picture you can see how sun rays are falling directly to the area which is near to the equator. Can I say that in tropical region? Let me mention over here. Can I say that in tropical region sun rays are going to fall directly, or we will have more amount of sun rays in the tropical region? Yes. Now see this diagram. Here you can see beautifully that this is equator, and then top to the equator and down to the equator you have a region, we call it as tropical region. Above tropical region you have temperate region. Above temperate region you have polar region, right? Here you can see class, direct sun rays will come near the equator, right? So equator, near to the equator, what do we have? We have tropical region. So more amount of sun rays fall over there. That's the reason temperature is very high, right? But as we move towards the polar side, temperature starts decreasing. Near to the polar region, temperature is very low because very less amount of sun rays fall in the polar region, right? Now when we move from equator to pole, what did I ask you class? Diversity increases or decreases? Diversity is going to decrease. That means from equator towards pole, my biodiversity is going to decrease. But what is the reason behind it? Just now I told you that sun rays are going to fall directly in the region where equator is present and near to the equator, that means towards the tropical region. So due to this sun rays, what will happen? All the other organisms will for example plant will be able to do photosynthesis, so more amount of productivity will be there. So as we have also learned in the previous section that sun is the major source of energy, right? So due to these sun rays, it is important to know that biodiversity is increased where the sun rays are more and more in amount, right? Now by this, can I say that biodiversity is inversely proportional to altitude or latitude? Now what is this altitude and latitude class? This is nothing but it is going to be high latitude or altitude, and this is going to be a low latitude or low altitude. Okay, that means as we move from equator to pole, altitude is increased. When the altitude increases, what happens? Sun rays won't fall over that region. So due to that, what will happen? There will be less biodiversity. That's why I have written biodiversity is inversely proportional to altitude or latitude. But if I would have written biodiversity is directly proportional to altitude, means as we move high to the altitude, my biodiversity should increase. But is it increasing? No, it is not increasing. It is decreasing. decreasing. So that means it is inversely proportional, right? Now let's come to our first slide and check out. Biodiversity is not uniform. Just now I told you it is going to be more towards the equator side, towards the tropical region, and it is going to be less towards the polar region, right? So throughout the world, but shows rather uneven distribution. The most important pattern of biodiversity is latitudinal gradient in diversity. What is latitudinal gradient? Obviously, what did I tell you? When we move from equator to pole, that means you are moving towards the high altitude or high latitude. Due to this we call it as latitudinal gradient, right? Now this means that there is an increased diversity from poles to equator. That means if I move from pole towards the equator, what will happen? My diversity increases. Right? Now terrestrial biodiversity increases from pole to equator, right? So this slide we have already seen. Now let's jump over here. This means that locality at lower altitude have more species. So see here once. So if I talk about lower altitude, that means I'm talking about this region, particularly your tropical region, right? So in the tropical region, we will be having more number of species, right? See here, this means locality, same thing. Species diversity is more in the tropical region. You will have more and more biodiversity in tropical region, more and more different number of species in tropical region, more and more biodiversity in tropical region. Getting my point? Now, this is an example of your tropical Amazon rainforest in South America that has greatest biodiversity in the India. Lots of different species you will be able to see. Tropics harbor more species than temperate or polar. This sentence means tropical region will have more and more species as compared to the temperate or polar region. Clear? Now see here. Here in your textbook they have given Colombia is having 1400 species of bird. India is having 1200 species of bird. New York is having 105 species of bird. Greenland is having 56 species of bird. So here we have taken an example of species of bird, and you can see as we move from equator towards the pole, then the number of species decreases. In the equator it was 1400. Sorry, on the equator it was 1400. But as we move towards the polar region, it becomes 56. So can I say that moving from equator to polar region, biodiversity decreases? Of course it decreases, right? So here the same thing what is given in your textbook, just now I explained you, right? This graph is not given, so I'm not explaining. Now we have certain reason. I told you that, okay, in tropical region we are going to get lots of biodiversity, lots of different species. Why that happened? We have certain reasons. So 4 reasons are given in your textbook. Let's discuss that. So first reason is going to be your speciation. When I say speciation, what is the meaning of speciation? It is nothing but formation of new species. Right? Now see here what happened, class. Temperature fluctuation is more in temperate region, but temperature fluctuation is less in tropical region. Let me show you over here. So here, see, you have tropical region until here, then you have temperate region. So here, in the temperate region, temperature fluctuation is more because you can see sun rays are not going properly over there, but it is coming properly towards the tropical region. Due to this proper sun rays, what will happen? Due to this proper fall of sun rays, what will happen? Temperature fluctuation will be less in the tropical region. Since it is less in the tropical region, population, the area remain undisturbed for millions of years. A simple example if I want to give you, let's take a bread. Okay, now if you are going to keep your bread aside outside, not in a fridge, and without disturbing it, just keep it. After few days you will see there will be the formation of colony of rhizopus, right? That is your fungus, that is your mold. But if you're going to disturb it, obviously you won't see that many colonies of the fungus. So what happened? Now why we saw lots of, after few days if you see, the whole bread will be with the whole bread will be full of colonies. Why and how that happened? It is happening because you left that bread undisturbed. So what happened? The organism got its good area, all the resources were present, like food, carbohydrate food it is taking, then moisture is present, all the favorable environment is there to reproduce, right? So what happened? It is going to reproduce and form many species, correct? So here, due to less temperature fluctuation, the area was undisturbed for millions of species. Since there was no disturbance, that means no high temperature, no more water, matlab, water is required but not huge amount of water that could disturb the area. Okay, nothing was there. So due to that we saw speciation, we saw more number of different species formation. This leads to the species diversification. That means more amount of species biodiversity we were able to see. So one reason is your speciation, right? What is the second reason? That is environment in the tropical region. Now, environment in the tropical region is going to be warm and humid. Due to this, what happened? We have less seasonal. Of course, we know that we have 4 seasons. But can I say that today it's summer, tomorrow it's going to be winter, then next day it is going to be rainy season? No, we have particular month, right? We have 3 to 4 months. We have summer, then we have rainy, and all these seasons will come. So less seasonal. Tropical region is a less seasonal area. Since it is less seasonal, that means again constant thing is maintained. That means I know after 3 to 4 months which season is going to come. After 3 to 4 months another which season is going to come. So that is constant. It is predictable. We know that. We know all the 4 seasons and when it is going to come. Correct? Now due to this, what happened? Constant environment promotes niche specialization. What is the meaning of niche? Niche means what? Niche means what, class? Niche is nothing but role or function of organism in a particular habitat. Role or function of organism in that particular habitat. We call it as niche. Then what is niche specialization? It is given in your textbook that niche specialization is nothing but how an organism responds and behave with an environment and other organism of its biotic community. So what is niche specialization? It is nothing but an organism. When we have many organisms, so obviously they are going to interact among each other, as well as it is going to interact with the environment, as well as it is going to behave like how environment is. Suppose a simple example if I want to give it, when it is a winter season, very cool, so your frog is going to go your frog is going to sleep. Now you in comment box write it and tell me, is it going to be activation or hibernation? I've already told you, is it going to be hibernation or activation? Write it in the comment box. So our organism is going to respond and behave with environment as well as with the other organism of its biotic community. This we call it as niche specialization. Now due to all these things, what will happen? Again I'm going to have more amount of biodiversity, right? Let's jump on the third reason. Now solar energy and resources like water, it is going to be more in the tropical region, due to which what happened? More photosynthesis occur, and from photosynthesis what do we get? Plants are going to produce food, right? Glucose. So more productivity is there, that means more food production, and this again leads to great amount of biodiversity, right? And the last reason, that in tropical region we have more insects. Ma'am, how this insect are going to help us to increase the biodiversity? I mean, they are you. I don't like them. Like how they are helpful to us? Obviously, they are helpful to us when we talk about the pollination. What is pollination? Pollination is nothing but transfer of pollen grain from one flower to another flower. Why did I write one flower to other? Because I have written cross pollination. Otherwise, what is pollination? Pollination is transfer of pollen from um, uh, transfer of pollen to the stigma. Transfer of pollen from one flower to the stigma of same flower or the other flower, we call it as pollination. Since I have written cross pollination, that means transfer of pollen from one flower to stigma of other flower, we call it as cross pollination. Now due to this cross pollination, more variation is there. When more variation there, more speciation will be there. When more speciation is there, obviously you will have more amount of biodiversity. So that's all we have in today's class. I hope you must have understood about the latitudinal gradient. In tomorrow's class, we are going to study about the species area relationship.